made him feel less than because I was putting too much pressure on. You know, he would do one thing and then I would say something about it, and then he would try to fix it and I would say something about it just because I wanted it to be.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. Talking to you guys today about Adriana, talking about Alex and talking about Rashid and dealing with self-sabotaging in your relationship. Yes, self-sabotaging in your relationship. Yes. Guys, if you are new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe. You click on that bell button for notification of the what? Uploads, baby. And for those of you who are returning as well, you got the minerals, you got the minerals, you got the minerals. Yes, guys, we appreciate you. Stay locked and stay loaded. We're gonna give you guys the review on Alex and Rashid. Now, we've seen Alex and Rashid only recently because obviously the Brian situation happened a few weeks back where she felt like he wasn't really listening, not really paying attention to her, and so therefore there was a conversation that was really happening now with Rashid, okay? And I think what was really good was that they had a conversation at the lunch or dinner table, whichever they want to call it, and they were obviously discussing some of the things about being vulnerable, okay? And he asked a question which was so key.
Okay. Have you ever sabotaged a relationship because in your mind it was not perfect?
He asked a question around has she ever sabotaged a relationship? And what was interesting was her initial response. She said yes and no.
Yes and no.
Oh, I want to hear this.
And I was like, sis, there is no yes or no. Either you sabotaged it or not. What she was actually saying was, yes, I have self-sabotaged a relationship, but there was a reason though. That doesn't make a difference, Alex. You self-sabotaged a relationship, regardless of the context and the reason. You have self-sabotaged a relationship, right? And that's what I was interested in because of her response. She didn't take full ownership of it because what she is seeing as a justification of behavior, from what I'm seeing. When you answer yes, no, what you're saying now is there was a justification as to why I self-sabotage. Yes, I look back and I look at my self-sabotaging, but I look at the reason why I did that. Listen, it doesn't matter whether there's a reason or not. There was self-sabotaging. That was what happened in a relationship, all right? And so the reason why she self-sabotaged was because she explained a story that, you know, that when she was with someone, an ex or whatever, he would do something and then she would say something about it. He would change it and then she would say something again about it. He would change that again. So the guy was willing to change whatever he wanted for her, right?
You know, he would do one thing and then I would say something about it, and then he would try to fix it and I would say something about it just because I wanted it to be a certain way.
Oh, okay.
And I definitely had to see, like, okay, Alex, like, you also messed up.
You know, whatever he done, she had something to say about it, right? And so it sounds like whatever he was doing wasn't being received well enough for her, right? Whatever he was doing to please her seemingly seemed like it wasn't good enough from what she's explained, right? And in that relationship, she obviously is aware that what she did wasn't right. But what's really interesting about that is why people self-sabotage in relationships. Because if someone's providing you with what you need, you said you wanted this, they've changed it. You wanted this, they've changed it. They wanted this, they changed it. They've done everything that you wanted them to do. Why is there self-sabotaging? Why is there a need to sabotage your relationship, right? And oftentimes the reason why is because, like I always say, when we're dealing with God, it's the same thing we do there. Many people in this world do the exact same thing. They say, if I go into church, I'll burn up, or God can't love me because I'm a sinner and I sin so much, or God, I'll come when I'm 30, when I've calmed down and stopped my sinning, or whatever you might say, right? You're actually self-sabotaging. The reason why you're self-sabotaging is because you think that you are not going to be good enough. Should you get close enough, they will expose you. Should you get close enough and intimate enough, they will see you for who you really are, right? They will see the ugly in you. They'll see the darkness in you, and they'll see the ugly, twisted nature that you have. Or so you think, right? And the truth of the matter is, yes, getting naked means revealing ourselves to the other person. It means showing our entirety to that person, trusting them with our naked, our vulnerable self and our full self, which means all skeletons and all, and secrets and you know, stuff that's happened to us because we want to hide because it's shameful. We give it over. That's why Adam and Eve in a garden They were naked, and what happened is when they ate the fruit from the tree, they felt shame now. In relationships, the exact same thing happens. When we feel shame, we cover up. We put on an armor. We put on clothes. We put on a barrier. We put on a mask. We put on something to hide who we really are from our partner, right? We don't tell the full truth because we don't want to be hurt. And so when she explained the story, I was like, sis.
I mean, at least, you know, acknowledge your part in it.
Yeah.
And because people got to understand.
It's tough to do, but it does. It takes two. It's vulnerable.
How is it a guy is doing everything you want him to do and changing? He might have been a people pleaser, by the way. And yet you're still finding a way to sabotage him, you know, to say what you're saying, right? She said, oh, she put too much pressure on him. The guy would do one thing and he tried to fix it, and then she would say another thing. So whatever he was going to do, it was never going to be good enough, because for her, it isn't that that needs fixing. What needs fixing is her. She needed fixing, right? Her lack of vulnerability, her lack of nakedness, her lack of openness to that gentleman caused for him to try and change it, and she would simply say to the guy, it's not enough.
Oh, I want to hear this.
I definitely made him feel less than, because I was putting too much pressure on. You know, he would do one thing and then
So she said, obviously, she also messed up. She also messed up. Now, I don't know if that's the abusive relationship or that's another relationship. I hope it's not an abusive relationship. But that doesn't sound like it's also messed up. That sounds like you messed up, sis. There is no one else to blame but you. The guy didn't do anything. He was doing everything he was called to do that you told him to do. And you've made it into a case of, I don't like this, I don't like that, and it's not working for me. What's interesting when we're talking about, obviously, sabotage, like I said, people self-sabotage their relationships, is a fear of intimacy. And people are afraid to get emotionally or physically close to other people because, like I said, it will reveal their nature, right? And so, you know, for Alex to admit that to Rashid, she obviously felt some level of comfort and felt a level of non-judgmental energy coming from Rashid, which is unfortunately what we probably didn't get with Alex and Brian. As much as I feel like Brian may have heard some things, I felt like maybe his energy wasn't complimentary, therefore causing her not to be able to be as open to express what she had learned and felt. Because for her to admit this is a deep thing, you know, to admit that at one point you were a cause of a breakdown of a relationship and you were doing it because you were self-sabotaging, right? It's hard to admit that. It's hard to give that information over, you know? And so, you know, I want to just say this, like, you know, when you're dealing with self-sabotaging, one of the things you got to understand is your attachment style. I think we all have our attachment style. Like for me, I know me, I can self-sabotage as well, which is that, like for instance, and it's little thing. And the thing is, it's not, you may think it's big things. It's not, it's little things. So for instance, I think my self-sabotage will come when, if I feel like a person may be pulling away too much, rather than having a conversation, I might say, look, I'm done. Or there's too many arguments where I feel like the person's not really feeling me. I'll be like, I'm done. Like, and you may think, oh, that's all right. No. You got to have a conversation. You don't know what the person's thinking, right? But you assume a lot of times, and then you self-sabotage by saying, well, if that's what your case is, I'm done. All right, I'm done then. I'm done. Don't want to hear it. I'm done. All right, done. And the small now argument has now turned into I'm done. And the reason why it's done is because you're self-sabotaging. You're getting out there before they hurt you. Self-sabotage. Okay, right. So understanding your attachment style, mine I think is avoidant dismissive, I think, or something like that. I can't remember. But that will help you understand why you're sabotaging relationships. You know, you've got to identify your triggers. What gets you triggered? What gets you hot? What gets you feeling a certain way? Are they breaking red flags? And you know, then obviously, understandably, if they're doing red flags, then you can exit. But again, understand maybe something in the past has happened, and it's now when a person does this action, it triggers that old memory, and then it makes you feel this new way, right? You know, you also as well, you know, at something that we called being very careful not to access the complexes. The complexes is almost like when we allow the past to enter into the present, right? You allow the past to inhibit your present, that you're acting as if you are still in the past, almost trying to and it's subconscious, this normally happens, to almost undo what happened in the past. So now you're using the other person as a way to kind of, as an access point to say, what I did in the past was different, was wrong, I shouldn't have done it that way, and in the present right now, I'm going to change it, I'm going to do this. But actually, you're not actually changing anything. You're just trying to rectify an old situation, and now it's causing your new situation to suffer. You know what I mean? Like oh man, it can get deep when it's self-sabotaging, right? But that's what I heard from Alex, and I was like, oh, okay.
Ability hard for you.
It's easier now because I've done the work after my divorce with seeing a therapist and things like that. Because I think.
Because, you know, when Rashid mentioned, he goes, oh, you know, he did the work, saw the therapist, but he also explained about not feeling wanted. And look, in a marriage and any relationship, you want to feel desired, you want to feel wanted, you want to feel like you're needed. You want to feel like the person actually wants you. This is essential. If you don't feel like that in a relationship, this is how cheating comes from, being desired or wanting to desire. When you don't feel desired or wanted anymore, that's oftentimes where cheating takes place, right? But he said it himself. He should have had a conversation. Again, this is what I want to highlight. Conversation, guys. We don't make decisions on temporary feelings. We must establish the foundational truth, which means sometimes having that conversation before we make that decisive action. Having a conversation and establishing all the facts that are out there, then making a decision is much more wiser. Right? You know, don't be quick and hasty to make a decision. Listen first. But that's what he was saying, that, you know, maybe had he had slowed it down, had a conversation, maybe the situation would have been the way it is.
Needed, because she basically had everything she needed. And then comes a child. Now she really has everything she needs. So I felt like, you know.
You were like, on.
You know what I mean? Had he expressed his desires and the fact that he felt not wanted, the fact that, you know, now she was a businesswoman, career, had a kid, you know, as well. He'd been pushed back to the bottom of the pile, and he said he didn't feel wanted. He didn't feel like that. You know, it happened. And then obviously she was again very forthright and coming by explaining a situation that she had an abusive relationship. And this is what I was saying about the difference between that one and Brian's one. She explained it, and what was interesting was the fact that Rashid was, I would say, interrupting. And I'm not going to say it wasn't necessarily being rude about it, but it's almost like he was trying to assume or finish her sentences, almost like he was trying to be sympathetic, but at the same time, when he was doing that, he was trying to finish her sentences. He just needed to hold fire and just let her finish. Oh, I'm sure you're over it now. You don't blame yourself, do you?
I mean, I'm.
You've dealt with it?
Yeah, I've dealt with it.
You didn't blame yourself? Because it wasn't your fault.
I mean, at one point I did.
Yeah.
But, you know, now
I hear a lot of people do that, so.
Yeah.
I'm glad you don't do that anymore.
No.
Almost like he was trying to make it comfortable for her, but because he felt uncomfortable. Because let me tell you something about silence, okay, is uncomfortable for a lot of people. A lot of people are not comfortable with silence. They can't have it because they assume that it's a bad thing. No, sometimes a lot of times silence is good. Sometimes opening the ears and closing the mouth is very, very good. Silence is good, right? But it felt like he was trying to fill the conversation. Maybe it's an edit. He was trying to fill the conversation and I'm like trying to finish off her point rather than allowing her to explore it and tell him what she had exactly learned. And I felt like that was just one or two times that he did that in that conversation towards the end. I felt like, no, bro, you don't need to finish her conversation. Just let her finish, let her land, let her explain her point, and you can see exactly where she is. Right? And then they ended a point on by saying about how they feel a fear of being hurt. And absolutely right, Rashid made a good point. Both men and women are, you know, fearful of being hurt. What I would say is that obviously with Alex, she obviously has got a guard up and Brian couldn't really breach it the way he needed to. And again, it's because I felt like he didn't create the safe space for that. Rashid's obviously getting more information out of her than Brian did. And it's not the first time, it's the second time. So the fact that he's getting that information shows that he's creating some sort of emotional safe space for her that she feels willing to share. This is why people tell me all their problems. Because I create an emotional safe space by just shutting up. Is that simple? You don't have to speak every single time, guys. Like, if someone says something to you, sometimes you just need to sit there. I hear you. You don't need to come up with a response that's going to be a magnificent piece of geniusness. No, just sometimes just keep quiet. Listen. It's a skill, it's not. So, yeah, guys, you know, I'm going to leave it there. What do you guys feel and think? Have you ever self-sabotaged a relationship? Let us know down below in the comment section below of your particular experiences. Guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe. And don't forget as well, guys, join our Patreon, Little Blackbird 91. Join it, baby, because we're about to go off. All right? Appreciate you guys a lot. Stay loaded. More love.